Welcome to Sacred, the podcast that invites you to reclaim your intuition, resist exploitive systems, and remember the love that brought you to teaching and caregiving in the first place.
We are your hosts,
Angela Carolina Garcia
and Lauren Staubel. Join us on a rough and tumble journey of reckoning and transformation. Hey, listeners, we are so excited because our guests tonight are our moms. This is the origin of us here in this space. And this is big. So before we jump into the conversation, let's just get settled wherever we are. And listeners, you can join in if it feels right to do so. So let's just feel the thing we're sitting on first and just see if you can let it hold you. And then maybe take a breath in and let your in-breath help you sit up nice and tall. And since we're thinking about origin tonight, that's a very earthy, mountain-like kind of feeling. So maybe just feeling that even though we're sitting on a chair, even though we're not sitting directly on the earth itself, maybe see if you can just feel and sense down towards the earth and feel the stability of that. And then take a breath in and exhale. Mm-hmm. And then find yourself here on the earth, back up to the place where you're sitting. And if you close your eyes, slowly open your eyes. You look around the space. If there are people in your space, making some eye contact and smile at each other. And here we are. Welcome, moms.
Hi. Hi. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
I am so excited for this conversation. I find myself preparing and I'm sitting at my table and everything is so organized and today I had dinner right before this conversation, which never happens, which then made me think oh, I get to talk to my mom today and to Bets, who I've met a few times, and to Lauren, and it's just going to be a chill conversation, which is usually not the case. Usually I feel there's a lot more pressure, which I think says a lot about feeling like we're home.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay. So, well, our first question is, and feel free, Viola or Mom, feel free to take this one, but what does it mean to be a mother? Neither Angela or I are mothers. I mean, I guess we're some kind of mothers, but not like you.
I guess I'll go since I'm talking and I can't tell if anybody else is going to yet. So for me, becoming a mom was, I just never thought I wouldn't be. I come from a giant family. I have 7 siblings, and every one of them was having children, cousins having children. It just was, I just knew it would happen. I hoped it would happen. But the feeling that I got wasn't anything that I expected. And that feeling for me was, I would say, joy. It's like they hand me this little thing and it was just joy. It wasn't like, oh, I'm happy, or this joy thing took over. And it brought with it the fear feeling, because now you've got this thing to take care of, and so the fear builds up around everything that can happen. And I'm just going to go with some stories. And one of my early stories was bringing Lauren for a carriage ride, and I wanted to get to a park, but I had to go around a corner that was under an underpass. And the fear thing built up that if I had to stop at the stoplight and there was traffic there, oh, something would happen to my baby. So it took me months to get around the corner because I would always just walk home. So I think the balancing of those feelings of this joy that you just can't even explain it, to balancing it to that fear of how do I allow this thing to grow but not have that overshadowing fear. So that I have found that to be a constant balance of having this great gift. I don't know how you felt, Viola.
Well, it is about the same. It is a balance of a little bit of everything throughout life. Not only that something will happen to your child, but what do you need to do to raise that child? See, when I had Angela is my firstborn. I really wanted it to know. I'm a believer. Why the Bible will speak about Christ having the pains of birth. See, because the Bible talks about the pains of birth, that Christ went through that. See, and even Paul mentioned it, that he goes through the pains of birth. And the pains of birth is giving life. It's giving life to somebody else. And I was able to relate to Christ when he was on the cross. See, and he was giving his life for us, for whoever believes in him, right? So when Angela was born, I remember going through those pains and knowing that, reflecting on those pains of birth, that you're giving life to somebody else, but at the same time, you're dying at that moment. Like you guys said, you're not parents yet. But when you go through the pains of birth, that's what it is. It is you're giving your life for somebody else. And with that in mind, that's where Beth, right? Is your name? Beth is your mommy's name?
Beth's, it's got an S, Bets.
Beth.
Yeah.
Mention it, the love for my little girl. I was so afraid that something will happen. And it is the love, it is the fear that you have. It is, what am I going to do with this little one? How am I going to raise that little one? How am I going to provide for my little one? And then throughout your walk with your little one, you make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
But being a mom, it is always thinking and wanting the best for the person that you were giving birth, giving your life. Because at that moment when you're giving birth, you really don't know what's going to happen to your life. Mm-hmm. You really don't know. Might be in that perfect health, and boom, your heart can stop because of the pain, the intense, the tension that you go through. Your body goes through a whole shock when you're giving birth. See, so it is a little bit of everything. And when they're little, I think that's the funniest part, because they're fun, they're cry, they're stubborn, but that's the most beautiful moments and the most beautiful, secure moments in our mind that they're going to be fine. I think that when your love as a mother grows is when you really, really understand what is your role as a mother, is when those babies become a teenagers.
All right. So
I'm laughing.
Really, yeah.
Well, so some of what you were saying too, when you're kind of going through and you make mistakes, and because part of when they are little, it is all about this guessing game. They have things going on, and you have to try to figure out what do they need. But you're responsible. You're responsible for all of those needs. And then, like you say, they get to that growing time, and this is where it is hard. It's like when the younger they are, the more your response is required, right? And then they start to grow, and you realize, okay, I need to back up, because I'm not the one who needs to have all the answers, especially when they reach those teenage years. And now it's like they have to figure these things out for themselves, but you still sit there in the back and you have all this love. It doesn't mean I don't. I haven't backed up because of that, but I have to stop giving the answers. But you still have that whole fear thing. And it's like, oh my God, I don't want them to make a mistake and I don't want anything bad to happen to them. But they're in the driver's seat as they go through, especially those teen years and you just have to allow some of that to keep happening, as difficult as that can be, and, I've also done like caregiving into my parents' ages, and it kind of goes back to that. They don't want to ask for the help, but then they need it. So you go through all of these different phases in a person's life, from child to the teenage years, and you're trying to teach as much as you can, but you want to back up and let them figure things out themselves too. So it's being a mom. It is the hardest thing, because it is such a balance of like, when do I step in? When do I step back and let them come to me? So, it's definitely a job.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Angela, but I feel like saying thank you right now.
I'm thinking about.
And also the role of the people in our lives. And I have to bring this precious person. My mom passed away when I was 17 years old. So I really didn't enjoy my mom as a mom, both mommies, right? Or my mom as a grandmother. But I had this beautiful lady in my life. There were several, but this one played a very important role in my life, because she's the one that gave me the advice of how to raise Angel and Isaac.
Who is it?
How to let go and how to tie the knot a little bit. Mama Licha. It's Mama Licha. I call her Mama Licha, and she made a big impact because she was a very wise lady, and not only that, she loved Angela, right? But she loved me too. And she gave me advice, and that advice came very handy at one point in my life. Like I mentioned, I had made a lot of mistakes in the raising up of my two children. And I think Angela took it the worst because she was the first one. And like I've always said, there's not a manual that teach you how to be a parent, how to be a mom. So reflecting and accepting the mistakes and seeing what your children need, right? And also seeking for advice and welcome those advices makes it a little bit easier. See, so Mama Licha always gave me good advice, like you said, Beth, that you need to let go and then you need to bring them back. But where is the balance, right? Where is the balance? You don't want to push too hard, but yet we do, and then we don't want to let them go, because and then no, that's not good either. No, right. That is not good either, So it is that balance. And one thing that Mama Licha told me one day: listen to Angela. And well, she told me listen to both of them, but at that time it was Angela. She's the oldest. Listen to Angela, and don't say anything when she's talking to you. Just listen to her. Listen to her. Listen to her. And even though you are very upset and you want to say things, don't, she said. Just listen to her. Listen, listen, listen. Go to your bedroom, relax, breathe, right? Think and ask the Lord for wisdom. And then come back with the things that you didn't like in that conversation and give her reasons why she shouldn't be doing certain things. So since that moment, I learned to talk to my children. We always had a long drives from home to school, from school to work. Always. We always drove like about 24 miles a day. And that's when I took the time to talk to my children and also spank them because I did spank them, right? And correct them and just tie them. And
While you were
I
driving?
remember, yeah, oh yeah,
One time,
oh yeah, yeah.
disclaimer, that's not safe. Don't do it while you're driving.
Yeah, no, but see, but those are the mistakes that I made, you know. And but a lot of times when I learned because I had to learn that children shouldn't be spanked just for any reason, right? And if you're gonna spank your child, you really need to be very wise about it and have the reasons why. And before you spank a child, try it. Try to talk to the child before and use other methods. But I learned not to spank my children when I started college, which I was like around 40 years old. And one of my first courses was human development. And I remember my professor, and one thing that he said, talk to your children until you turn blue. And since then, I started applying that rule. Talk to them, give them consequences. One thing that Angela didn't like, okay? Angela didn't like when I start giving him consequences. Oh no, my God, no! I'd rather for you to spank me, mommy. I'd rather for you to spank me than not to let me go.
You wouldn't let me go out with my friends.
It worked, you know, it worked, and since then I really stopped spanking them, and I said no, you know, consequences are better. Are much better because and then it hurts because at one point when you are spanked over and over for every little single thing, you just become immune. It doesn't have no perspective anymore. See, anyway, they're gonna spank me, so might as well I'm gonna do it, you know. So that's the
for sure that was my attitude.
yeah.
I think it was, a little. So, like I've said before, is like I grew up in such a large family, and my mom worked full time in the hospital. My dad worked full time banking, had a second job. So I think we were faster than the spank. You know, we could run faster than who was going to spank us. but yeah, I know. So we grew up in that that crazy 8 children environment, and then I had one, and like all the focus becomes on Lauren. And the one thing that I will say that sticks, my mom passed recently, and so I feel fortunate after your story, Viola, that I've had her so long. But she, having raised 8 children, and mind you, my youngest brother is 22 years younger than my oldest brother. So I was 15 when my youngest was born. So you're sort of in that teen mom space where I'm starting to become a mom taking care of the youngest one. But she would always say is, we're not trying to do the wrong thing. Like you say, you realize later, oh, I shouldn't have done that. What have I learned? Oh, I shouldn't do that anymore. But she'll always say, it's like, you're just trying to do your best. Or she would say, like, did you do the best you could in the moment that you were in? So it was always just that opportunity to try to do better again. Because every day we wake up and try to do better again, and every decision we have to make, we try to do better again. So because I think there was so much going on for her, it's just something that I try to remember. It's just like the reaction, right? Our reaction comes faster than we want it to sometimes. And I'll tell the lovely story when Lauren went deciding to do cartwheels down the hallway, and I had pictures all over the hallway, and I just heard them all coming down as she cartwheeled through the hallway. And I see her eyes, because it's like, my reaction came. Was it the best reaction? Probably not. But, then you step back and you're like, it's always a learning. We're constantly learning. And it sounds like you're a teacher, and everybody's in the education profession, been in the IT profession. But I will say that we are always teaching and always learning. So so even though I'm not a professional educator, that I think that's how we spend our lives. And as a mom, that you're hoping that every lesson that you're giving, like my big one was really, I need you to be independent for yourself, despite or because of or in spite of anything that comes in your life. Very important. I wanted her to be able to stand on her own two legs, and it's like, and what are you going to contribute back to the world? And Lauren and I did scouting together. We did Girl Scouts together. So we did years together where she was a scout, but then she turned around and she became a scout leader. So it was like one of those things, one of those places you can learn so much. But as mom and daughter, we shared so much of that experience together. And just to go back into that whole thing about being a mom, is like every experience you can spend with your kid, they're the best ones, they're the best ones. So
yeah, and that is true. My mom always worked, and she taught us to be hard workers as well. And because I lost my mom when I was very young, that's one of the things that I always I fear. I don't think I'm afraid of dying. But one thing that I was scared is of me dying and not Angel and Isaac have those survival skills. So I was tough with them because I know I was tough, but I was tough with them. And because I lost mine when I was very young. And one thing that we have secure in this life, it is death. If you are born, if you're alive, for sure, one of these days you're gonna die. And we shouldn't be afraid of dying. But what can we do before that time comes? Before that time comes, what are we giving? How are we teaching our children? How are we preparing them? For whatever they have to face by themselves. Because it was 4 sisters, 3 sisters and myself, and we have to face a lot of responsibility because it won't matter how much you are loved. Love, it is your foundation, right? But responsibilities are there regardless. And it's like you said, Beth, that how am I going to provide? How am I going to teach Lauren to survive, right? What is it that I'm giving her to survive? And that's one of the reasons why I was so tough, especially with Angela, because I learned through life that as women, we have it harder than men. So I was tougher with Angela because I knew Isaac had it made already just for being a boy. But I know Angela didn't because she was a girl and she had to fight. And I am very proud of her. I am very proud of the lady that she has become, her success. And yes, I let her go very early, but I also trusted in the Lord. My faith, my heart always was in the Lord's hand. My daughter was always in the Lord's hand. And when she came and asked, I want to go to Sweden, I want to go student abroad, it is like nobody believes me. And I don't know, well, yeah, because you have to be tough. You have to think. You cannot be selfish, So when she asked me, I said, okay, let's think about it and tell me your plan, And I never let go of the thought. And when I went and approached her close to the time that she needed to start to prepare, I said, are you going or are you not going? And she said, I don't know. I said, well, that's not an answer. I'm asking you, are you going? Do you want to go or you don't want to go? She said, well, I'm thinking. I said, that's not my question, Angela. I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you, do you want to go or you don't want to go? And she looked at me and she said, yes. And I said, okay, well, let's get it together. And everybody was in shock, especially my husband. Especially my husband, he was in shock when I supported her. But you know why I supported her? Because I couldn't cut those wings just because I'm a mom and I love my mom. I love my daughter, and I'm afraid something will happen to her. Yes, I was very afraid. I was very afraid something will happen to her over there, so cold. She didn't know nobody. She was by herself. But I always trusted in the Lord. And Mama Licha told me, because I talked to Mama Licha, and she said, you need to trust in the Lord and you need to believe this. If the Lord is going to take her over there, she's going to bring her safe. And that gave me a lot of reassurance, And it was a whole year. And, but that gave her wings, that gave her experience. And, if the Lord calls me anytime, I can tell you I am ready. I am ready. My babies are grown. They're very well raised, thank God. They know the Lord. It is up to them, right? Their faith or whatever they decide. But I guide them in the ways, in the path of the Lord. I put a little seed of faith. So I know that once you water that seed, it will give fruit. So if the Lord calls me anytime to his presence, I can live happily from this earth, knowing that Angel and Isaac now have those survival skills, and I can tell you, I didn't do a perfect job. I didn't do a good job, but I did what I could with what I knew.
I think that was like my message from my mom is basically that is that's all we can do, Viola, is you do the best you can. And that when I think of like Lauren and her wings too, and a lot of people or moms will talk about either the difficulty raising one or they had the teenage years or it was tough. And there was nothing tough about Lauren. There was nothing tough about her. It was a joy the whole time. You have a little spat here, a little spat there. But I do remember when she turned 18 and in my head, I thought, this is the time to let the wing, to let her fly, because that they go to college. They're supposed to go. They're supposed to leave. We have done the most we can. And now they're going to take that, and you have to trust in them, and you have to trust in everything that you have taught them, that they're going to start to make, they're going to make wrong decisions, but they're going to have the foundation of, they'll know it. Some people can make wrong decisions and they don't know it. But if you've been brought up well and you have good foundation, you're going to make a wrong decision and go like, yeah, I know that was wrong. So you send them off to do their great things, right? And so Lauren goes off to college to do her great things, and she did. But it was for me, like that's the time. That's what you need to go do, because I don't want to. I'm sure I did, Lauren, and I apologize now, but I'm sure I interfered, even though I was trying to let you go do all your great things, because that's that part about the mom that I will say that every time we make a wrong decision, probably fear is behind it. And that's when we make our wrong decisions, because it's like, what's going to happen? And the protecting part is gotten too far away from me. I can't. And so now things are going to happen that are way out of my control. And so the things that we do, or the reactions we have, again, I think they're fear based, but so you let them go, and very proud of you, Lauren. It's like you just continue to build your life and make your successes and how they look for you. And I couldn't be happier and more pleased with everything that you've done. And I'll say, like I said before, like, we are teachers and we are learners all our lives. And Lauren has now become my greatest teacher. So I learn the most from her. And
they do.
So
they do.
That's one of the great rewards of being a mom, is as you kind of like, you get to the point of like, not I'm tired of teaching, but oh my, and then you can turn around and like, oh, she can teach me now.
Right.
It's in her hands. So
you're kind of pointing to this this concept that keeps coming back for us, is this idea that like children's development is wrapped up in ours as adults, that we really, children develop best when we are also, as caregivers, teachers, parents, developing as well at the same time, and that we kind of need each other in order to do that kind of development together. But it's also, both of you have just talked about what I think we are also discussing in the podcast about rough and tumble reflective practice, is like, it is not what I think a lot of people think we're striving for. Like, if I did it all right, then it's going to happen smoothly and everybody's going to feel good all the time. But it really, like, what I'm really hearing from both of you is that, like, this can be excruciating at times. It's like, in order to like let go of, like, make that space. And I often think kids actually become kind of annoying in some way when it's time for us to give them some space. Like, like kids when they're around, toddlers start saying no all the time, right? So you're finally like, oh, no, you don't want help with your shoe? Fine, put your shoe on yourself. And then they put their shoe on for the first time, right? There's like this kind of like, come here, get away thing that happens in these like awkward moments in development. But you both kind of described that. Probably, I imagine one of the scariest things is like just sending you off. But that's how, Angela, is how you and I met, because we left home and we found each other in Waltham, Massachusetts.
I'm thinking a lot about, I like, as Lauren mentioned, I am not a parent, and I dive myself into academic books and learning about nervous systems and how to care for children with best practices. And both of you described like this intuitive thing that happened when you birthed us. Like, something very intuitive happened, and it came with mistakes inevitably, but that the joy and the fear came, and the letting go and the coming back. I mean, I don't imagine that either of you, well, my mom now has, but imagined like going and studying like, it took me years to go and study to learn, how do I let my toddler students sort of climb up the steps and go into the loft and trust that, like, they won't fall. And if they do fall, that, well, I'll catch them and then I'll have to make a report or something, or let my students walk off and explore and use scissors and come back, right? Like, there's all this academic that says why this is important, but both of you have described how you experienced it, even though you didn't have like this academic background in child rearing. And that to me feels, Lauren and I talk a lot about like something beyond us, and to some of us it's Jesus and spirituality, and some of us it's our yoga practices. And so I'm just a little bit grateful. Well, I'm a very, very grateful for this conversation, but I'm also sort of amazed maybe at how we are interconnected that way, right? Like, there is this, like, there's something beyond us that says there's something of how we are in relationship with one another as humans, something that's untangible, something that's not physical. And both of you have described that very beautifully so far. So thank you.
I think was going to say, I think that, like, if you were just to take any one of us and, you're on a remote island and you're by yourself. And so everything you do is fine. Everything you do is fine. There's nothing to tell you that what you did is wrong or you could do it better, because it's you. And so we only learn and we only grow. And I've every time I've read through the questions or the things that we're going to talk about, it boils down to our humanness. But it's when we bounce up against somebody, and I could say something, but it's really when we bounce up against somebody else, that's what starts to form our boundaries of, not just the whole right and wrong of things, but it's how you stretch and how you learn, and the how we build our relationships with each other. If we don't have that, we don't bump into something. And when I bump into Lauren on this side, my relationship develops this way. I could meet Angela somewhere and I bump into her. Oh, and now my relationship is going to build somehow else. And I have 7 siblings, and every one of them I bump into, I learn something else and another way to communicate with them, or learn something about them. And that, well, when I talk to this sister, she's fine with, when we talk that, but when I talk to this sister, I have to be like more careful. I have to say this, or so that whole, I guess you're calling it the rough and tumble thing, Angela, is that whole thing about how we interact. Is like, it's like bumping into each other, like bumper cars. And every time you bump into one, you learn something about, we are all here, and each one of us has something to teach the other, and learn from, and learn from each other. And oftentimes we don't even know the person we just taught something to, and we may have learned or garnered something from someone that disappears in our world, but we saw something and we gather that in. So I don't know, that might be where I touch in on the whole the spirituality of things, and the relationships around us. And
Lauren, maybe you'll be able to share a little bit more, but I'm thinking about the trickster, and I'm thinking about malleability. I don't know if that's a word, but malleability. But like you're describing, Bets, like this bumping into, and then you sort of shape shift. Like, I'm going to be this one way with this sister because of our because of our histories together. Now I know how to interact with you one way. And then because of my histories with this other sibling or this other person, I'm going to interact this way. And so I'm thinking about the trickster, and that's like I don't even know how to describe it in this context. Actually, I don't know what the words would be. But maybe you, Lauren, or maybe you can play with me there for a little bit.
Yeah, I was picturing clay. I love clay. We had that in our classroom a lot. But right, because clay, if you think about like the density of clay, when you bump into it or like mash up against it, it does change the shape, right? But it's like ultimately it's still clay. And so that it does feel like, okay, so the shapeshifter is when we usually shape-shifting, well, it just doesn't have to be, but we can shapeshift in a way that serves. And so
I think of it as a toolbox. That's what I was sort of getting at, is that toolbox. So to stick with your clay is just keep adding pieces to the lump. It's like every time we do bump into something, I'm learning something new. I've gathered something new. I have a new skill. I've learned a new communication method. I've learned, and so if I don't know if that's what you're meaning by the shape shifting, but it really is about how do I build my toolbox? And if I am by myself, I can't build those relationship tools. Right. And it's not until I bump into a person who, that I can establish a relationship with, and then I build my toolbox of how to get along in life, I guess. And
one thing that I learned, like I said, my mom passed away when we were very young, and I came to know the Lord Jesus Christ as my Savior. Personal Savior. So I was 15 when that happened. So I practically grew up in the church with the same pastors for my whole life and until now. And I remember pastor and I mentioned this because these people, they were part of my growing. See, I know I had my daddy, but I didn't have my mom. So the only other place that I had, the other family that I had at that time, it was the family from the church, right? Especially when my mommy was passing away, when she was dying, they gave us a lot of support. So a lot of the teachings, a lot of the growing, a lot of the knowledge, advice came from preachings, from Bible studies, and advices that I received. And I remember always pastor preaching about the porcupines. we should be like porcupines, with all their little spines that they have. They still come together, regardless of if they poke each other, they still come together, and that's what relationships are. We cannot break a relationship just because I didn't like the way you talked to me. You know, I didn't like the way you saw me. I didn't like what you said. Well, I didn't I didn't mean to. And one of the greatest tools in that toolbox is the love, the forgiveness, and to be humble enough that even though it was not your fault, you go and apologize. One of the Bible verses that it brought this reflection to me is that you don't go and apologize to somebody that you intentionally hurt. You go and apologize to somebody that has something against you. So if your brother or your sister has something against you, you go and apologize so we can bring them back. And when I understood that Bible verse, I said, okay, I know what I need to do to keep, like you said, especially our families, especially our children. Because in this raising our babies, we make a lot of unintentional mistakes. But if they have something against us as parents, we as a parent, even though we have the authority, we still need to go and humble ourselves and ask for forgiveness to our children. So we can so we can bond again, so we can truly be ourselves in a relationship. That I can say, I can go with Angela and I can tell her, or Angela can come and tell me, Mom, you hurt me this way. And me not having a hard time saying, you know what, mija, please forgive me. I know I made that mistake. And the other day I had to do it with my sister. She said, Viola, because they call me Viola. That's how my mommy used to call me, Viola. And she said, don't take it wrong. I said, but a lot of times when you had gatherings at your house, a lot of the times I just wanted us to be us. I just wanted to be us. And it's true because we long for that relationship because we were growing up when my mom passed away. So everybody was going to different schools. We were growing. Everybody has their own thing. So we really had that bond as sisters. We lived together, but we didn't have enough time to socialize and to interact with each other. So we longed for that moment. And she said, and sometimes I just wanted to be us. And she said, but you always have to have somebody at the house, somebody from the church. And I said, I know, Elma. That's her name. I said, I know, Elma. And I ask you for forgiveness, mija. And you're not hurting my feelings because the Lord brought that into my heart as a conviction that I should have never mixed so much the people from the church with you guys because you guys are special. We didn't have our mom when we were growing up. I left home when I was very young. And that's one of the things that I will always carry with me. I don't regret anything that I have done in my life. And if I have to do it again, I'll do it all over again, probably better. But one of the things that is that I left home. I married my husband when I was very young, and my sisters were very little when I left home. And I'm the oldest, and they needed a mother figure. And I wasn't there. And that really hurts, that really, really hurts. So I didn't want to make the same mistake with my children, so I always tried to keep a real close relationship with Angela and with Isaac, and at the same time, respect their boundaries. Not to be la mamá metiche, the nosy mom. No, I don't want to be a nosy mom. And none of the relationships, I want to be their mom. And at one point, maybe not too much a friend, but somebody that they can come and trust and talk and have that confidence that whatever they tell me is going to stay with me and that I will give them the best advice that I can.
Viola, I just want to thank you for that, for sharing that story, because it's so clear that it's so close to your heart. And also wanted to thank you for bringing humility into the conversation. Our field is really struggling right now, early childhood education. I was talking with a colleague the other day about how teachers, I think it's everywhere in the country, but especially in the Boston area, they can just walk out the door right now and get hired across the street. So there's no reason to stay and work it out with someone. And so that leads to the turnover. And even, I remember supervising teachers who would get to about January and say, it's okay, never mind. Like, I'll just get through the rest of this year and I'll have a new team next year anyways. But so there's something about that, what both of you are saying of like, actually, I need to bump up against somebody in order to learn how to be human better, or I need to actually be a little graceful and humble in this moment. And even if it's not my fault, to kind of step into that relationship fully. I mean, when my husband and I first got together, and it's a second marriage for both of us, my husband just kept saying, like, just got to keep coming back. Just keep coming back. Same with our yoga practice, our spirituality is like, you just got to keep coming back. You fall down, you just keep coming back. And that is the thing that really, that is how we build a bond. I think you used the word bond, Viola. That's how we build a bond. And we need that. Even, early childhood educators, we are raising babies with each other and with parents, whereas we spend a lot of time with the babies. And a lot of teachers have said, they got into the field of early childhood education because they don't like working with adults. They'd rather work with children. And I always laugh about that because children come with adults. There's
they come with a family.
This is where I will say that I would always say, when I get a job, I want to work with children or animals, or I'd like to be outdoors. And I ended up in a career in the insurance industry in IT. And I would say, well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, because adults are children and can sometimes act like animals. We never got to be outdoors, but we get all kinds of behaviors. And we always have that child inside of us. And we always have that new thing to learn about yet another person with a different way to respond or interact with. And so that I guess my thought is really in that child space. I didn't work with children, but we can be just big children sometimes. And it just goes back to how much there really is to learn in life, and how you how you use all those lessons, I guess.
Yeah. I'm thinking about, I think right now in education in our field, right, you can, like you said, Lauren, you can walk out the door. You don't even give a notice and go to the next building over. And because of the need, they'll hire you. They'll be like, yeah, come on in. We need you to cover. We'll get you fingerprinted next week, but go be in the classroom type of thing. And what both of you are sharing. And then there's this word boundaries. And recently I've been really conflicted with this word, because I do believe that you shouldn't let yourself be exploited by bad conditions and by bad bosses, and that you should be valued for the work that you do. And I'm contemplating a lot, like, there is a big difference between having a boundary. No, that's not what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say was, both of you have brought this sense of being human and being in relationship, and the internal struggles that both of you have as mothers, where even in all of its hardship, the boundaries were never, well, we're not going to mother you. Well, we're just going to walk away. Well, we're all done.
No, we cannot do that.
Right?
We didn't have a choice.
Or even in example that you were giving, Mama, of if you're the one who's wrong, if you're not the one who's wrong yet you still apologize, right? Like the humbleness that comes because of the way that builds relationship or puts relationship or maybe even brings a sense of security into the relationship, right? Because bonding, like I'm thinking about bonding and the coming and the going and the weaving that goes into bonding just makes you stronger, right? I think if Kurt's saying we're going to keep coming back, then like that builds security in a relationship.
Yes, it does.
But if you use, but so then I'm thinking about if we, as our ways of building boundaries, is our way or our justification, our unintentional justification even of walking away from something, how then it's only leaving very thin layers to be able to build relationship or even a self, like an understanding of self, if we're always able to walk away because somewhere else we will be taken in.
Yeah, I remember Sister Martha, again, from the church, pastor's
I've
wife.
also talked a lot about church.
Right. Yeah, because they were a family to us, and like I said, all my teachings and what a teenager, because I was a teenager when my mom passed away, and my little sisters that were younger, we received that advice. And one of the things that Sister Martha always said, and a lot of times we need to be very wise and listen to what people is saying. And then you retain what is going to edify you. And you let go of things that they're not going to edify you. That's the Bible says that, Paul mentions that in the Bible. And she said, don't be a rolling stone. Don't be a rolling stone. Just like you guys mentioned, don't go to one daycare center to another. Grow roots. Because the roots are the ones that are going to make you strong. Be like the palm. The palm is so big and is so strong, but because it has a strong roots underneath. See, so and it's very sad to say this, but a lot of times going into early childhood education, a lot of people think that it's an easy job because you're dealing with babies, you're dealing with children. But the only thing, the hardest part is that early childhood is a lot of responsibility for caregivers because you're taking care not of your daughter, not of your child, somebody else's. And you need to be very careful with that little treasure, somebody else's treasure. You need to be very responsible. One day, at the daycare that I used to manage, I had an accident. It was in the playground and somebody got hurt. One of the little girls got hurt and opened her head. And we have to take her to the doctor, to the hospital. And then I called the insurance and I made the report. And she said, well, I need to know what happened, who was around. And I was very scared. It was the first time that it happened to me. And I said, well, I did have a lot of supervision. I already looked at the cameras and this teacher was here and that teacher was that. And then the lady in the insurance company told me, Ms. Garcia, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many teachers you had there. The adults are responsible for the children. So it won't matter what happened, who was taking care of the baby. Always remember that in this field, the adults are responsible for the babies. And when caregivers recognize that, how much responsibility they have, they leave. They leave because of that. Yeah, you might have a bad relationship with your coworkers, but it is one thing on top of the other. But the hardest part is the responsibility. And then as a director, we put the same responsibility in our teachers. I delegate that responsibility. See, as a director, it is my job to delegate you to take care of that child. And you are responsible regardless. If you're there, the child fell, it's your fault. He was playing, everything was fine, still your fault. Why? Because you are the adult. And all of that, when they really starting to face that, and then that's when they decided to leave. And they go to another one because they want to start again. But it is very hard. It is a hard job. I remember when my husband asked me, "Are you sure you want to work with children?" Because I never worked. That was not my career. I initially was a businesswoman. I used to manage businesses. Okay. And then I decided to quit, went and worked at the church voluntarily. And from there, I started my early childhood education. Right. So when I decided to go into early childhood and reopen the daycare at the church, my husband asked me, and he said, "Are you sure you want to work in a daycare?" And I said, "Yeah." "Are you sure you want to work with children?" And I said, "Yes." And then he said, "Just remember, babe, just remember, you're going to be working in the kingdom of God. The Bible says, let the children come to me, and you better take care of those little ones because you're going to answer to me." And that's what the Bible actually says. Oh my God. And that really came into my heart like a sword. And I had to go and reflect with the Lord. I didn't took it like lightly. I said, "Okay, Lord, is this calling coming from you?" I said, "Because if it is coming from you, I'll take it. But if it is not coming from you, I don't want it. Put something in the middle that will stop this." Well, nothing came in the middle. Nothing came in the middle.
And here you are with first graders.
With first graders, yes. And when I came to know Jesus Christ as my personal Savior, the Bible talks about gifts, the different gifts that the Holy Spirit gives you. And I was 15 years old when I came to know the Lord. And that is my gift, to be a teacher. I remember being at the house by myself during the summertime with my sisters. My mom still was alive at that time. And I will help Bible school, summer Bible school in my house. I would teach Bible school and vacation Bible school at my house. So my gift is to be a teacher, and you really have to have the love to work with children. Because I'm going to tell you one thing, girls. If you have the love to work with children, no matter what comes your way, no matter if you cannot stand your coworker, you will stay. You will stay because I'm not here for you. I'm here because I want to work with them. I have something to give. This is my passion. This is what I love to do. See, a lot of times they say, "Yeah, I like to work with children. Yeah, I like ice cream too. I like pizza too, But to like and to love is two different things. And if you want to go in the field of early childhood education, you really need to have the passion to really work with little ones.
Yeah.
And then when you have that passion, whatever is happening to your right, whatever is happening to the left, front and back, you're going to stay because you're focused on what you like. And you know what? A lot of times I have come home and I said, "Is this really worth it?" Yes, it is really worth it. Do I really have to put up with my boss? Yes. Do I really need to take this? Yes. Why? Because I love to work with children. Because that is my calling. That is my passion. That's what I love to do. Not like, love to do. Because I like to walk. But the day that I don't want, I don't walk. The day that I don't want to walk, I don't walk. Right? But when you love something, you get up every morning knowing that it's going to be a new day. You find ways before you go. And I always told this to Angela. Before you go to bed, Angela, you need to make peace with the Lord, make peace with yourself, and have a real good night's sleep. Reflect on the things that you did. So the next day, you can make them better. And yeah, I said, okay, what could I have done it better? How can I fix that? What is it that I need to do? I need to be more humble. I need to accept that teacher. I need to accept that parent. I need to, even though I don't like the paperwork, I have to do the paperwork. Why? Because what I love to do is greater than that. That's why.
I think there's two things that I'm thinking about. One of them is right, like your convictions and the piece of like you want to work with young children, and I'm not in the classroom anymore, and I have tried to leave early childhood. I've said this multiple times. I have tried to leave early childhood, and something keeps pulling me back here in different layers of early childhood, but it keeps pulling me back. And a lot of my family knows that I have anxiety and depression, and then I get caught up in like all of the things that I read and how do we work with children? How do we work with families? What are the conditions that need to change? And they've told me like, maybe you don't need to read so much. If it's causing you so much anxiety, you don't need to know so much. It's okay if you don't have all the answers. But those are my convictions of if I'm going to work with young children, if that's the thing that is the thing I am supposed to be doing, then I also have to continue to do the work to be the best type of holder for those children, right? Hopefully not to the expense of my anxiety and depression. Hopefully we have conditions to manage it. So I'm thinking a little bit about that from what you were saying, Mom. And then I'm also thinking about like how are you building those bonds with your colleagues and the adults you have to work with in the work that you do when you love being with young children? And then a little bit about like where is it where you say then this isn't like the space where I'm going to work with young children, right? Like I'm thinking about like when you were a director or like you're not necessarily in contact directly with kids, but you're working in a different layer of the care for young children, and now you're directly working with young children, and like how those things also, how are we like guiding the teachers or caring for the teachers?
Well, if we want to be good mentors, and that's one of your questions. If you want to be a good mentor, not because you're a director, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be inside the classroom. That is totally wrong again. That is totally wrong. As a director, you don't belong behind your desk 8 hours a day. As a director, you need to be very attentive what is happening in your classrooms all the time. Even though you're doing paperwork, you need to say, okay, I need to go check. That was me. And I was not very popular, right, with staff. Children were very happy. Parents were very happy, and that says a lot. Not all my staff was very happy. But again, you're here for the children. Why are you here? This is your responsibility, And yes, I'm going to be checking on you because that's my job. And yes, I need to tell you that your lesson plan, it is not correct because we also need to make state standards. Do I like that part? No, probably I don't like it. I love curriculum, right? But there's things that I don't like about my job. But again, we go back. If you love what you do, you put your heart into everything. even though you don't like it, but because of love, you do it. See, because of love, you do it. Because if you don't do it for love, and then why are you there? It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of work, and you are not very well paid. Number one. If you want a good pay one, then go and be an engineer, go and study science, be a scientist, go somewhere. But education is because your heart needs to be in it. In education, your heart needs to be in it because it's not for money.
I think this is leading me to think about, Mom, you're not officially a teacher by profession, but so you were my Girl Scout leader, and then you led another Girl Scout troop with me. And I'm even just thinking about like some of the girls that were in our troop, still talk about you if I run into them, because you showed up for them. I think in this way that we're talking about right now is like it was almost like, Angela, what word did you use? Conviction. When I saw you, working with other kids, for me, it looked like it was a reflex for you. Like you couldn't not do it. If somebody's parent was really struggling in some way, you were going to bring this child to the grocery store with you after the meeting because you knew something was going on for them. And what this child needed right now was to have a nice time in the grocery store with her Girl Scout leader.
How did you remember that? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Or even with my cousins, right? I have 22 cousins on my mom's side. And being an only child, it was really nice that there were always cousins around, but sometimes cousins lived at our house. Sometimes, family members lived at our house for short times in between here and there. And I think that the conversation about kind of what has brought the other three of us to show up for kids as our profession is something that I kind of witnessed you doing with people who were they were strangers until they showed up at the first meeting, right? For Girl Scouts.
Yeah. Right. And I think one thing is, when there are little ones, and everybody is so drawn to little ones because, and I have to only speak from my family perspective or the Girl Scouting perspective, because I wasn't in classrooms, but so much of the time it was those little ones that were family, and they start to grow, and then they become the annoying 10-year-olds or the annoying 8-year-olds or the pain in the neck teenagers, or watching Daisy Girl Scouts become brownies, become God, I think we just called juniors. The green outfit. I was going to call Girl Scouts. That's juniors to the cadets, and it is there. Sometimes those are ages that either at family gatherings or think that adults don't know what to do with them. They don't know how do I get to them? How do I talk to them? And so for me, I wasn't sitting with the adults. I was at the little kid, and I could fit. That's probably why I did it at the little kids' tea party table, where I could get served by my 5-year-old. I'll use my term niblings that I got from my lovely son-in-law, because I'll say nieces and nephews, and he says, "Why do you say that all the time? Just say niblings. They're your siblings' kids. They're your niblings." So I say my niblings. So I would much rather be in the room with them and listening to their chatter and listening to what they were talking about, or just learning from them, and or trying to just give them some guidance in some way. But there was really nothing like being with the same kids through their Daisy Brownie Junior Cadet years and watch them go from you do everything for them to okay, pick this badge. And now you guys have to make the phone calls, and they look at you like, "What do you mean?" "Well, if we want to go to this place, we have to call and make an appointment." And that whole guidance and teaching and letting them know that it's okay to do, and it's peer support. There's 6 of you sitting there, and one of you is going to call this place, and and we're going to learn how to do this together. And in truth, nobody loves a baby more than me, or a toddler more than me. But man, when I get in the middle of that, hungry for how do I become independent, and that is my sweet spot, I guess, because I love to get, especially, the young girls that just like get in there. You're like, how do you, I have so many nephews, teach them the same kinds of things. But when I was doing the scouting and just watching them grow and take on more and more responsibility and figure out how they were going to accomplish something as a group, my favorite thing to do. And so I didn't have the classroom, but I guess I would call that, those scouting years, my classroom. And so Lauren got herself all the way through to her gold award, and decided for part of that she was going to bring on her own troop. And so she started her own troop of daisies as a junior in high school, and then went off to college. So who do you think? So I start with that next group of girls that are like little daisies becoming brownies, becoming juniors. And so it's just a great thing to watch, and have kids come up to you later and say, I learned so much from that. Yeah. And it matters, it matters, you gave these kids these skills.
Mm-hmm. Because it's because of love, love is not self-seeking. And when you're willing to give your time, especially your time, it's because of love, because we can always find something else to do, but that is being, not being selfish. Right. When you're willing to give your time, your life, those special moments, you do it because of love. Right. I mean, my happiest time. You were not in that classroom, but you are a teacher. Exactly. You find the places that you're able to teach. I had we had afternoon programs at work, and so I would leave my desk for an hour, and we'd go down to the cafeteria, and we'd get like the Hartford schools send all the kids in, and we'd do their homework with them. We'd spend time with them and talk about, like, what do they want to do, so you try to find an impact with kids you didn't even know. You met them once a week, but you just try to find an impact. And I am happiest when I'm teaching somebody something. I might have learned something, and if I can share that outwards, like teaching kids to drive. I love teaching kids to drive. I love teaching kids to ski and getting.
I've never heard anyone else say that, by the way.
I know. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm so calm in a car without a brake pedal. But I somehow find a way to just sit there calmly and allow kids to take the wheel. But also the whole skiing thing is like, if you take a kid that, maybe they're looking for like what makes them feel cool or confident, or, you put them out on a ski slope and you teach them how to do that. And it brings this whole world to them, this whole confidence, this whole space to them that makes them feel like, wow, I can do something that other kids can't. I now have a thing. So so I haven't been in the classroom teaching, but I have spent so much time, I feel, just teaching other things to kids in as many ways that I can, whether it be the whole nibbling thing or the whole friends kids. I'll teach friends kids to do things, So because different kind of education, but still education. Right. Because we all learn many different things, not only one thing. And teachers like us, we work in classrooms, but students not only learn academics, they also learn life skills. They also learn sports because that's part of life. That is part of growing up, learning these skills, something that they want to do, something that they enjoy. So, there's other types of teachers, not only classroom teachers, but there's teachers like you out there, giving that time to these students, to these children that maybe nobody else is out there to teach them and show them those skills. Right. And just another aspect of the whole mom thing that we started with is like, you don't really know who your child is going to be or what they're going to like. And so anything that I couldn't teach, I just tried to put Lauren in front of as many things as I possibly could. Here try dance, here try gymnastics, here try piano, here try this, and just they'll gravitate to the thing that they like. But if they haven't had the exposure, or nobody who was willing to get them to that space, or present it to them as an option to try this and try this. And Lauren was pretty good, and she tried a lot of things. And I got to tell the story, Lauren, of your flute lessons with your cousin. And that was one of the things she did not gravitate to so badly, that when they were at the Christmas concert, she and her cousin, and you've got like tons of flute players, right? And a few trombone players but tons of flute players. And so they would be back there with the fingers on the flute, no sound coming out at all, because they knew the rest of the band was covering them, because the last thing they wanted to be doing was playing this flute. But, she played piano and she learned guitar. And so she found the things that in the music space that she loved. And she loved it. You stuck with dancing, and you just, there's so many things, you just expose them. And as a mom, you don't know, what is my kid going to like? What are they going to be like? What are their interests going to be? And so you just keep throwing.
Made me finish the year.
The season. I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say it, but it's like, if you start, you made a commitment.
You have to finish.
You gotta take it through. You gotta see it through.
Yes.
And actually, that will bring us to, speaking of finishing, we actually didn't ask you any of the questions, but we have one more that we would like to hear from each of you more clearly on, because I think you really did. Angela, what do you think?
Everything was
all of those in there
and interwoven.
We would love to kind of wrap it up with what of your vision of thriving looks like. What would that, if we looked everywhere and everyone was able to do this giving and receiving, and the kind of relationships that, sacred relationships that we've been talking about all night, what would that look like for you?
Well, reflecting on that question last night, it is what it is thriving for me. It's better to give than to receive. It's better to give, because I consider myself very blessed, very blessed. I consider myself very blessed by the Lord. See? So, and not because I have everything, because I don't have everything. But one thing that I have always said, and Angela is witness of this, we don't have richness, we don't have money, like, well, we have this so much money in the bank, or we don't. We live like every other family. What is it? Medium class family. We still work because you need to pay bills. But one thing that I have always said, I pray whatever my need is, and the Lord fulfills that need at that time. I pray for the things that I want, and the Lord gives me the things that I want. So I don't have a need in that aspect. See? So that's why I said, for me, it's better to give than to receive. I think, and even the Bible says, and give what you have. Do not owe nobody anything. Just love. Just love. Do not owe anything to nobody. Just love. And I think that's what we need in our fields and early childhood education, the love for those little ones, because we really don't know what's happening in their homes. Even though they have everything they need, maybe the lack of attention, and that little kindness that you do to them, it's more than enough. It's more than enough to them. So always give without expecting to receive anything back. You will receive at the right time, at the right moment. But you know what? It's my greatest pay when I see my babies at school after I give them a hard time because they still don't know how to read and they're barely writing. But you know, they come with their little papers with this
Oh.
in the back.
Boy,
And even though today
Viola
I
just held up a drawing of a heart since they can't see.
okay. You want me to hold it up? No.
No, that's okay. Their listeners won't be able to see the video.
Oh, the little heart. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, they make little because they're having a hard time writing and reading, and I say you need to read, you need to read, you need to write, you need to write, and I'm pushing that for them, right? School is hard. It's hard. I'm a first grade teacher, and I said, damn, that is so hard for them to learn. But you know what? Even though I know it's very hard for them to learn, I said, but you know what? They can learn. They can learn. They have a beautiful thing that is called the brain. And that brain that we have, it is so powerful, that we only use a little bit of our brain, a little piece of our brain. And it is very powerful and we can do a lot of things. So I'm not discouraged. I keep pushing them and I keep telling them how the brain works and all of that. But when they finish their little papers and they bring me their assignments, they draw little hearts and little flowers. And they already know how to write my name though. They figure it out by themselves. So, and I love you, teacher. You're the best. And then they drew pictures of me with my curlies. They draw pictures of me with my curlies, and that's my pay. That's my pay. Because one day I'm not going to be working there and I'm not going to have the salary that I have. But I'm going to keep the memories. I'm going to keep their love, because they hug me. They tell me, I love you, teacher. I want you to be my mommy. And I said, no, don't do that. Don't say that. Don't say that. They come and hug me. Miss Garcia. And they hug me. Even though the older ones, that they're not my students. They have never been my students. But for the little things that you do to them, a little spoon, they drop something. And when you tell them, hold on, mijo, I'll help you clean it up. Okay, it's okay. It was an accident. Oh, mijo, don't be running because you're going to get in trouble, Or, oh, you look so pretty today, All of those things they appreciate. And everybody, all the students, they see me in the hallways. They see me dropping off the students and we are kind of far away from each other and I can hear them, and that, it's mine. Nobody can take it away from me. Nobody can take it away. And with that said is at the end of the day, I said, Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the love of the babies towards me, because I know I want for them to learn. I want the best for them. And I push their education because I know they're capable and they love me and they love me. They are grateful. So yes, that's the greatest pay that I can have. And nobody can take it away from me. Nobody.
I would agree on the part when you're talking about thriving and the giving over the receiving, and for me the thriving is the things I've talked about already. So just giving of my time and giving of myself and giving of knowledge that I have, and trying to just grow other humans, small to adult, and to become their competent selves, and that's when I feel that I'm thriving, when I can share that, when I can see it working, and giving. I mean, Lauren, you see this a lot. I mean, I'm retired now, but like I am always looking to see who needs something, who can I give my time to, whether it be helping nieces or with their little kids now that we've got like great niblings. And I love DIY projects. I'm forever helping somebody, and when I help them, it's like, yeah, but I want to teach you something while we're doing this project. So I am thriving when I am sharing of myself, sharing something I know or know how to do or have learned from someone else how to do. And I agree, the receiving is the tough part. It's like I'm more apt to be the one giving in many ways, and thriving isn't necessary. It's not a financial thing. It really is about a time and a commitment and a purpose thing. It's like finding purpose is when we help others. So but if I'm going to sit there and be giving, I'm hoping everybody else you want everybody else to have that same kind of a feeling, to be giving. So as my mom got older, and I'd always, let me do that for you. Let me do that for you. Let me do that. But I was taking from her the gift of giving. So I had to sit back sometimes and receive from her, which was harder because I felt at this point I really should be, giving to her. So she wanted to be giving to me. So I had to sort of sit back and allow the receiving to happen. But
right.
Yeah. But really to be able to just go make a difference in somebody's life, and that's thriving for me. So
this has been so beautiful. I'm thinking about like the lineage that you have brought in to this space, and then the lineage that will come after us, or that is coming after us, right? Like you talked about great niblings and your niblings, and you talked a lot about your moms, right? Like those are all of the DNA strands that exist between us.
Yeah, just and like this fountain of giving. Both, I mean, Angela, I feel like I don't remember which episode it was in, but I remember you were talking like your body language was like a fountain coming up. Like I feel that we're probably like releasing good hormones in our brains right now. Like that. Imagine like that is contagious, right? Like the greatest gift to receive is to be able to give. Is wow. I think, I mean, let's end it there because I hope that each of us like just to take that in, listeners, just like take that in, and the next time that you are bring this back the next time you're in a tough moment. Even I want to bring this back next time I'm in a tough moment. Wow, such gratitude.
Yeah, because you need to think, is it worth it? Is it worth it to go through this? And you need to keep yourself focused on the things that you like and like to do and love to do, and the things that you love to do, and say, yeah, it is worth it. Yeah, it is worth it, And then just my last thought about your question about sacred relationships. I look into that and I did a little research. Sacred is a connection with God, right? Or dedicated to a religious purpose. However, your podcast, it is based on sacred relationships. But, people created people. God created people. God created people. And the relationship, it needs to be within us and has to be dedicated, in our fields, has to be dedicated and worth of respect. Not because they're little ones, not because they're children. It means that they don't deserve respect. They deserve all the respect in the world. As babies as they are, we need to respect them. We need to dedicate our lives to them when we are with them. And that is making a connection. And like I said, I'm a believer. I'm a Christian, right? I'm a believer. I really know. Well, I know where the Christian word comes, right? But I believe in God and I have a lot of faith in the Lord. And to me, he's so holy that when we talk about sacred relationships, is not only the relationship that we have with the Lord, but the same relationship we have with the Lord is the same relationship we have to have with one another. Because we need to love first us. We need to love us first, like you guys do. We reflect, we meditate, we sink in, right? We let Mother Earth to reflect. We reflect in Mother Earth, right? Because He give us life, He give us food. So the same thing is with relationships. The same thing is with our beliefs, right? And your sacred relationships that you guys are creating through this podcast is the relationship. It has to be worth of respect and to have the same thought, the same relationship that I will have with my God. I will have the same relationship with my neighbor, with the people that I work. And that keep us going.
I'm I've been telling Lauren that I wanted an elder to come and bless our podcast. And I think that you just did that for us. And so
the Lord just did that for you guys. Yes, because it is sacred. And when we really do a little bit of research, and find out the meaning of words, it brings connection. And that's what you guys are doing, bringing sacred relationships to the most sacred little humans, because they're innocent. They're innocent. They trust in us. They believe in us and their leaders that they're taking care of them. So yes, we have to treat them like we need to take care of them as sacred things. Sacred little things, little humans, little babies, because they're very innocent. Very, 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 very innocent. And they trust their leaders. And as our caregivers and teacher, they trust us a lot. And we spend a lot of time with them. A lot of times, more time, there's our parents. So yes, we have a responsibility with them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we have somebody that we need to respond because for them. So yes, we need to love them and give them. Yes.
Well, thanks for listening. To keep the conversation going and for monthly reflection prompts related to each episode, sign up for our mailing list.
And if you want to play with us in real time, exploring the ideas in this episode, please come to the next campfire chat. We look forward to our next sacred conversation with you.
Check out the show notes for more details.